Well, welcome to our 13th episode. This is the third week of us doing this vlog series. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Doreen Bonde. She is a makerspace specialist by trade for the Union School District. She also works out of the KCI at their makerspace. She's excellent there. But one of her passions is supporting educators in maintaining mental health and being able to remain calm and deal with stress. So today she's joining us to share her care package to help educators. So welcome, Doreen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. And I'm so grateful that you all took a little bit of time for yourselves today to be here with me. So like Abby said, I'm a makerspace specialist in my professional life, but I also have a master's degree in health education. I've been studying health ed for probably the last 25 years. And I'm also married to an administrator. So what I have discovered through the years is that educators are under a lot of stress. And that was before all of this happened. So, my initial inclination was to try to help kids with their stress, but then I realized if the adults in the room aren't healthy, then they're not going to be able to help the kids. So we need to start with the adults and make sure you all are taking care of yourselves, and then you have the opportunity to support your students. So really today's session is all about you. Just for a little while. You don't have to be a teacher or a spouse or a parent or a sibling. You can totally focus on yourself. And really, educators are some of my favorite people in the world, and so that's why this is my area of focus. So we are going to go through 3 tips today, and my first tip is to, the next one, yeah, thank you. So what if I told you that you could avoid something that would contribute to hypertension, heart attack and stroke, weight gain and obesity, diabetes, depression, anxiety, faulty brain function, memory loss, immune system deficiency, decreased fertility, and psychiatric disorders? You'd probably want to avoid it, right? So that thing is lack of sleep. So one of the first things I tell folks when they're struggling and having a hard time is to focus on their sleep hygiene. So there's a couple things you can do. First off, keeping the room where you sleep completely dark is essential to getting quality sleep. You want to expose yourself to natural light as much as possible during the day. And that way your body will produce melatonin and help you maintain a healthy sleep cycle. But at night, you want to make sure that the room is completely dark. Use things like sleep masks or blackout curtains. They have little stickers you can put over the devices in your bedroom that have the little red lights. You want to block out as much of that light as possible, and that will help improve your quality of sleep. Because you can even detect light through your closed eyelids. So you really want to make sure that you're conscious of the light in your room. And then caffeine. I know we're all hitting the Starbucks when we can, if it's available. I was not happy to hear that caffeine consumption even 6 hours before bed can make you lose an hour of sleep. So it doesn't affect some people, but if you're struggling with sleep, you definitely want to pay attention to how much caffeine you're having during the day. So another thing, and this comes from the sleep specialist, if you're in bed for more than 20 minutes and you can't go to sleep, you should get up and get out of bed. I know it seems kind of counterintuitive, but what they recommend is getting up, getting out of bed, and going to do something quiet, something restful, something boring. Don't watch your favorite Netflix show, but read or knit or something like that. You really want to associate your bed only with sleep. So after about 20 minutes, you might find that you're actually a little more drowsy. You can also try a body scan meditation. In my resources, I've got a lot of different guided meditations that can help walk you through how to calm your body down. And if all else fails and you need to take a nap, you want to try to do it 20 to 30 minutes max and early in the day. And then it's kind of a your mileage may vary sort of things, but most people will find that they can do a 20-minute nap and still be okay.
There's a lot of things you said in there that are not helping me sleep that I'm doing. I wanted to pipe in also that all of these recommendations are really great for the students and kids in your life. Also, Digital Citizenship put out their research on how digital use is impacting student happiness, and part of the happiness is derived from having this regular sleep schedule and enough sleep. And so they're seeing that kids, especially teenagers, are not getting a lot of sleep because they're on their devices, right? When they're trying to get to sleep, or right when they wake up, they go straight to their devices. So that's another piece of the puzzle to consider.
Yeah, a sleep specialist I spoke to recommended that you don't do any screens at all, TV, iPads, phones, for 2 hours before bedtime. And he said that would actually significantly increase your ability to go to sleep. I personally have not been able to accomplish that, but that's the ideal.
There's always tonight to try.
So another thing you can do, and this actually, Abby, is a great thing that you can do when you're trying to go to sleep and having trouble, is something called box breathing. So this is something that the Navy SEALs developed to stay calm and focused and alive when they're in combat. So what's great about it is it's got kind of a neutral energetic effect. It's not going to wire you up, but it's also not going to make you sleepy. It's just going to make you alert and grounded. And according to the Mayo Clinic, intentional deep breathing like this can actually calm your autonomic nervous system. It helps you to relax, reduces stress, and improves your mood. So if you look up on the screen and you see that dot that keeps growing and shrinking, that is actually a breath bubble that you can use. So you just find a comfortable place, inhale for 4 seconds while the circle is expanding. You hold the air in your lungs for 4 seconds while the circle is expanded. Exhale for 4 seconds, emptying all of the air in your lungs as the circle contracts. And then hold your lungs empty for 4 seconds while the circle is contracted. And a lot of people have found if they do this for about 5 minutes when they're having trouble going to sleep, this will put them right to sleep. You guys want to give it a try real quick?
Yes.
All right, so let's wait till that circle expands. We're going to inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath at the top. 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, and then hold 2. That's simple. I figure if the Navy SEALs do it, it must be good.
Must be. They must sleep really well.
We hope. So the last thing under the body category is movement. So you can dramatically improve your health just by moving. And I know that's been a challenge for a lot of us since we've gone into quarantine. What you want to try for is at least 22 minutes of movement a day, but any kind of movement that you do counts. You don't need to be an Olympic athlete to benefit from movement. One study found that trading 2 minutes of sitting for 2 minutes of light intensity activity each hour, like walking or cleaning or gardening, and these are all things we can do while we're under quarantine, lowered your risk of premature death by 33%. So what I found is really effective is there are some Chrome add-ons, and I'll see if I'll add this into my resource list that will remind you to stop once every hour for a couple minutes. So that's a good time. Just get up, walk around the house, do some laps around the house, up and down the stairs, just to keep your body moving as much as possible. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. So I think the thing that I hear most from teachers is I can't do one more thing. And I really get that. I'm not trying to suggest that you need to do 30 minutes of yoga every day and meditate twice a day. I really, really encourage people just to find 5 minutes, just 5 minutes a day, and pick one of the things that we talk about today and see if you can incorporate that into your day. Now you're probably thinking, what is 5 minutes going to do? What difference is that going to make? So I'll have to ask you, would you rather I give you $10.7 million or $1 million?
10.
$10 million, says Abby. So psychologist Benjamin Hardy found that most people will take the $1 million in their bank account right now. as opposed to a penny that doubles in value over the course of a month. But what they don't realize is that doubling a penny actually ends up being $10.7 million. But the majority of growth happens at the end, and most people aren't patient enough for the big return. But what we're trying to say here is that the little changes matter. So you start with 5 minutes. Maybe next week you do 6. Maybe the week after that you do 7. Anytime we can intentionally build in that self-care, we're going to not only care for ourselves better, but we're going to care better for the people around us. So
now let's open it up to our participants today.
Yeah.
So what could you do for 5 minutes today that could help you get a sense of calm or give you a sense of you for this weird and strange time? You can unmute yourself or pop your answer into the chat. Let's see here, I'm full screen, so maybe challenge.
I think for 5 minutes a day, I do try to honestly lay on my bed and I try to breathe. And my daughter is looking at me and making fun of me right now, but I also like to cuddle my dogs.
Hang out with my cat and also go out in the yard and do some yard stuff that's brainless.
No, I wish I had a pet right now. That's what all the videos online are making me want as a pet to just hold.
Yeah, my dogs are definitely keeping me sane during these times where I'm just stuck at home. So it's definitely nice to go on walks with my dogs. But I love what Doreen said about sleep. I go and I do acupuncture every week, and even in the shelter in place, since they're still open, I actually still make time to do acupuncture every week because it definitely helps me. But one thing that my doctor has been telling me about is sleep and how important it is. And not just that I get enough sleep at night, but that I try and, get myself to bed by 11 o'clock. Because your body just naturally knows when you should be going to sleep. So, which is hard for me because I'm definitely a night person. And as much as he keeps telling me, one thing that I really want to try and do is get myself to power down with my devices, and then really try and get in bed maybe around 10:30 so I can try and fall asleep by 11 o'clock.
Yeah, the sleep specialists I've talked to have really emphasized, because I've got one kid with a pretty severe sleep disorder, and the doctor told us that you really want to strive for going to bed and waking up at the same time every day, rather than trying to do the weekend warrior and sleeping for 12 hours to try to make up for it. So, in the circumstances that we're in where we don't have to commute, this might be a good opportunity to give that a try and just see if it helps. My kid's sleep schedule was completely backwards, up all night and sleeping all day, and within a matter of weeks was able to get back to a regular sleep schedule. So anecdotally, I say it works. So it's something else to give it a try.
All right. Leads us to a really good next tip.
Okay, so mindfulness and meditation, I know those are kind of our buzzwords right now, but what they have found is that a regular meditation practice can actually change the shape of your brain. Neuroimaging shows that after 8 weeks of meditation, meditators have increased gray matter density in their brain, and you can actually see results after only one session. And you don't have to do a week-long silent retreat. Dan Harris, who's the author of 10% Happier and Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics, says that really even 1 minute counts. So that's something that you could do for 1 minute or 5 minutes every day as a regular practice, and you'll be growing your brain. So you can tell your kids that. In my wakelet, you'll find some free resources for meditation, specifically for educators. Headspace and Stop, Breathe, and Think both offer completely free memberships for educators. They're usually a paid subscription. And then there's also some great mindfulness activities from the Greater Good Science Center in Berkeley. So on to our next food for thought question. So what's something that you can do to put yourself in a good mood right now?
Open it up. It is Jenna's birthday, actually, so I hope she's in a good mood throughout all of today and this weekend.
Happy birthday, Jenna.
Thank you. I mean, thinking about this question, I had mentioned it in the one that we did earlier, but to put myself in a good mood, because really today I woke up being happy that it was my birthday, but being really sad that I don't get to share it with all the people that I love. And so Jennifer Del Bona, every day she has her safe space where you can go and just do some breathing activities with her. And so I made it a point this morning to take those 20 minutes, go into her Zoom meeting and do some breathing exercises with her. And it was just amazing how much of a better mood I felt after just breathing together with her. And so I'm really thinking about, those kinds of opportunities, and really, if I had my own classroom, just opening up my classroom to have those spaces for students as well.
I'm sorry, Jenna.
No, I'm done.
Okay. Hey, first of all, did you guys hear what I said in the last question? Because I thought I spoke and then I looked down and it was on mute. So I didn't know if you heard me say about breathing or not.
Oh, go ahead.
So I just was saying that I practice breathing, and that, and then your next slide was mindfulness. And I've done a lot of mindfulness work. When I was still in the classroom, I practiced mindfulness every morning with my students. And I noticed that it works for me as well. Like there's been times where, like everyone gets really nervous when they go to the dentist. And so an example of that is just being in that chair, waiting for the doctor to come in, and I just close my eyes and I breathe. And so that's what I'll do too, is just those mindfulness moments, right? Where you can like close your eyes and really focus on your breathing, or just sit there for a minute or 5 minutes and just really listen to the sounds around you. And if you focus on those kind of things, it kind of takes you away from everything else and recenters you, right? So that is something that I do miss doing with my students, but I love doing for myself. And I noticed when my anxiety starts getting high, I'll have a mindfulness moment, and it truly makes a difference. So that's my story.
Awesome. I have been making it a habit in the morning. I'm just a TV junkie, and so if I have my phone, I'm on Netflix or Hulu or some other platform. But I've been making a habit in the morning to put on a comedy show, some like comedian who's doing a bit. And I find that puts me in like a really happy mood immediately in the morning, because I'm just laughing in the morning. No matter what happened the night before or what I'm getting ready to do for the day, I'm like one of the first things that I'm doing every day is laughing. So that doesn't take that long, 5 minutes maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just that it's just the little things, and if you can build that into your day every day, and I like that you start the day out that way too. It just kind of sets the tone for the day a little better. So something like that I find helps me a lot too is if I'm struggling and I try to help somebody else. So right now we have so many opportunities to make somebody else's life better, even through little things. Just a message, a quick text to somebody to say, hey, are you doing okay? Do you need anything? I don't know if you guys find that to be helpful as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think now more than ever, I'm also connecting with more people than I have in the past. Just because sometimes I'm sitting there scrolling through my phone, like, who haven't I talked to in several months? Let me like reach out and just send a text or call and say hi.
Well, and as we revisit our schedules too, and recreate this new normal for ourselves for at least for a while, you know, it's a good time to stop and think about what things that we just automatically do that we maybe don't need to do right now, and instead maybe spend some of that time focusing on ourselves. You know, does the house have to be completely spotless, or could I spend a little more time doing something kind for myself?
For sure. It's all letting us know how much time there actually is in the day.
All right, so
Go
moving
to
on to our third tip.
Oh, I need to close this chat. There we go. I will go back. Third tip.
All right, so the third tip is play. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Brene Brown, but she did a speaking engagement called The Power of Vulnerability, and she talked about a researcher named Stuart Brown. So he initially started out researching violence, and then as a result, he actually ended up researching play. And so what he found, and this whole concept of play just kind of blew my mind. He said that play, the opposite of play isn't work, it's depression. And rather than creating a definition of play, he decided to create 7 properties of play. So the first property is time spent without any purpose. Now, Brene calls that an anxiety attack for a lot of people. The second one is an activity that you don't want to end. Something that makes you lose track of time, something where you lose self-consciousness. She talked a lot about, she said, you know, I play Candyland with my kid, and that's not play for me. She said, that's parenting, because I really want it to be over. I hope it'll be over soon. I'm not really, you know, it's not something that I want to last forever. So if we look at play a little differently as something where we kind of lose ourselves in it, that definitely redefines play. Like she was talking about going to Disneyland is not really play for her or for her family. Another thing Brown talks about is competition is also not play. Like playing sports, people say playing sports, but actually in the animal world, they participate in contests. They do things like chasing, wrestling, but then they'll handicap themselves in order to continue the activity. So you'll see them, you know, chasing after each other, and if the other one catches them, they'll slow down and keep going so that they can actually enjoy the experience more than be the winner. So if you know, think back to your last vacation, how much of it was really play? How much of it did you completely let go of your self-consciousness and just didn't want it to end? How much does that end up? How much does it end up that way for your kids or for your significant other? What would they consider play? Something she recommends is sitting down with your family and talking about what things, using a Venn diagram, what things do we all consider play? And then you might find some interesting intersections there.
I love this. I think, oh, do you see what I see? Okay, sorry, I toggled between something, a desktop and then the screen. I love the notion of play, especially now because things seem so dark that we all need some levity in our lives to remind us we're human. Like part of being human is enjoying and laughter and unstructured time, which I think is hard to understand right now when what used to be, I was telling Doreen, like, oh, how's your Friday going? And I said, oh, well, it's hard to tell these days what day is a Friday. Like Friday means a little less every week because we have, like, I'm just living in my house all the time. So the time is starting to blend all together. Like I don't even know when the weekend is. It doesn't feel like a weekend anymore because there's what we used to compartmentalize as work and home and play and all these other things in our lives that used to have very defined spaces is all just melded into one. And so anytime that we can leave this space of work, this space of like duty and go to unstructured, like, me playtime, I think is like super important.
One of the things that we've been doing in my house during this time, well, not all, as much as we would like to, but well, not every day anyway, but we want to do more of it, is just sitting down as a family, and we've been playing games actually. And I don't know if that would be considered unstructured because there's rules, but we just play. And like, we had a 12-hour game of Monopoly recently.
Wow.
That was a little bit much, but but at the same time, like, we were all into it and we weren't doing anything else but playing, you know what I mean? Or like, we've done like yoga, and we play with the dog. I make you come back to the dogs. There's a lot of dog playing going on around here. So I don't know, like later today after our meeting, after this, we're gonna go for a walk, you know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily play, I guess. I'm just trying to think in times of like right now. I've had a quarantini hours with a few different girlfriend groups. That was fun. We just met and met up, and it was really cool, actually. How many of you have been doing something like that?
Yeah, we've been doing that. I met with Abby and a couple of other friends over the weekend, and then I have a chat going with my cousins right now. And since it is my birthday today, we're gonna do a happy hour tonight, and then we're trying to think of what kind of games we can play. So, I mean, it's really interesting. I know there are a lot of digital games that we can play, but then I just threw out a game that we just love to play as a family, like together. We would always play the game Categories, and I think that's a good one that you can actually play over Zoom, because you really just need to do a screenshot or show what all of the categories are, and then roll the dice, and everybody can have their own piece of paper and write down their answers and then share after. So I think that in this time of sheltering in place, like, we can come up with some really creative ideas of how to connect using play. So I love all of this right now, and all these ideas that I'm seeing online.
There is I love music, and so there was a 1980s music bingo via Zoom, which was really fun as well. Just things like that are really cool.
Yeah, my daughter's been doing a great job of modeling how to be social and have fun and play during the quarantine. So she's in college, really missing her friends. So they have set movie nights every week, and they do the synced up Netflix. And then last week they were playing charades, which apparently goes very well on Zoom. So I think that we are definitely slowing down enough to recognize, I think, how much we need to play. Like, I don't think our animals have ever been so happy in their entire life because they're getting so much attention. Like, I'm hoping that we learn to appreciate play and take it a little more, find time for it a little more often when things go back to relatively normal.
So that was the third tip. So the first, just to recap, the first tip was really centered around sleeping and taking care of your body. Sleep, move. The second tip, and sleep, move, and breathe for the first tip. The second tip was around meditation and mindfulness, and the third tip is around play. I want to thank you again, Doreen, for lending your expertise and providing this space for all of us to have these discussions and get some more ideas on how we can practice a little bit more self-care in this time of shelter in place and COVID-19. Do you want to talk a little bit about the resource that's in the links here?
Yes, actually. So when on Friday the 13th, when I found out our schools were going to be closed, I realized I needed to do something to give back. So the next day I started a wakelet called Care Package. So since then I've been collecting as many resources as I can find to help support educators. So what I'm going to suggest to you all today is that we try to create a self-care PLN for educators, where we can all share things that are working well for us. And just like we do in the ed tech space, can we start supporting each other in how we can best take care of ourselves so we can be good for ourselves and our families and also be good for our students. So I would suggest using the hashtag CarePackageEDU. And then also got the link to the wakelet for Care Package. So I try to carefully curate these resources, keep them really positive and things that are free and easy to do, and a wide variety of things to help support you as we go through this difficult time.
That is awesome. I did get a chance to take a look at a lot of those resources. There's a lot on breathing and mindfulness. So if that's an area that you don't have a lot of knowledge around and want to get a kickstart, there are a ton there that can help you start your practice today. So
yeah,
thank you.
I will be updating it every day. So I will continue to post things as we move forward. So Abby, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. It's so important to me that our educators care for each other and care for themselves, so we make a little better world out there.
I'm so happy you're able to join us today for this webinar series. Been invaluable lessons, and I hope that others take part in watching the recording of this, because I know at least 6 educators who need to take 5 minutes out of their day to do something for themselves. So you might have seen that the next screen said our next webinar. That is to be determined. It will be a surprise what happens on Monday. But thank you for joining us today on how to encourage self-care for ourselves and for others, especially educators. We look forward to seeing you again soon. And thank you again to Doreen and our participants today. We'll see you next time.
Take care. Happy birthday, Jenna.
Happy birthday, Jenna. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Doreen.
Thank you, Doreen. This was awesome.